You're standing on the lot right now, keys in your hand, that new truck smell pulling you in, the salesman smiling like you're already family. Stop, because one of the trucks I'm about to name is going to cost you thousands in repairs before you finish paying it off. Maybe the exact one you're looking at today. I've spent decades under these things, and I've watched the same shiny new models limp back into my bay with failures the brochure never mentioned. I remember the first time a nearly new pickup rolled in on a flatbed with barely 30,000 miles on the clock, and the owner just stared at me like his whole world had cracked. That moment never left me. So here's my promise. Stay with me to the end, because there's one truck buried in this list that a major dependability study flagged with a defect pattern most buyers never hear about until the warranty's gone. It's the difference between a truck that dies at 90,000 miles and one that crosses 200,000 without complaint. This matters whether you're buying brand new, shopping used, or already sitting in one in your driveway right now. I'm ranking these from bad to downright disastrous. 12 trucks. And the deeper we go, the worse it gets. Let me start with the ones that just annoy you before we get to the ones that bankrupt you. Number 12 is a truck everybody loves on paper. It rides nice, it's comfortable, it looks the part in the driveway. But the newest half-ton versions rolling off the line have a problem that starts small and grows into a wallet drainer. I'm talking about electrical gremlins. Infotainment screens that go black mid-drive, backup cameras that freeze, door modules that quit talking to each other. And here's the thing, nobody tells you when one of those computer modules fails, you can't just fix the part. The whole unit gets replaced, and you're looking at somewhere between $800 and $1,600 a pop, sometimes more if it takes a dealer diagnosis to even find which module went bad. I've had guys come in swearing their truck was possessed, radio turning itself on, climate control fighting them. It's not a ghost. It's cheap wiring harnesses and modules that were rushed to market. My advice on this one, if you're buying used, sit in it for 20 minutes with the engine running and cycle every single electronic feature. Roll the windows, test the camera, work the screen hard. If anything stutters, walk away. That stutter is the first whisper of a repair bill. That one just costs you comfort and a little cash. Annoying, but survivable. The next one starts costing you real money, and it hits a truck that millions of people trust without a second thought. Number 11 is a mid-size pickup that markets itself as the tough, go-anywhere adventure rig, and it looks tough. But underneath, the automatic transmission in several recent model years has a nasty habit of shuddering, hunting for gears, and jerking hard between shifts at low speed. Owners describe it like the truck is hesitating, like it can't decide what gear it wants. That's not your imagination, and it's not break-in. That's a transmission that was calibrated poorly and, in too many cases, wears out its internals early. When that transmission finally gives up, you're not looking at a cheap fix. A full replacement or rebuild on one of these runs, $3,500 to $5,000 once you count parts and labor. I've watched owners get quoted that number and physically sit down in my waiting room because their knees went weak. And the worst part? A lot of them were still making payments on the truck. Here's what you do. Before you buy any mid-sized truck like this, take it on a test drive that includes slow, stop-and-go crawling, not just highway. Feel for that shudder around 15 to 25 miles an hour. If it hunts or jerks, that transmission is already telling you its future. Don't let anybody convince you it's normal. Normal transmissions shift smooth. But a rough transmission is one thing. The next truck on my list has an engine problem, and engine problems are where the real heartbreak begins, because somebody knew about these failures, somebody watched the warranty claims pile up and kept selling them anyway. Number 10 brings us to a full-size truck built around a turbocharged small displacement engine. The whole pitch was efficiency. Big truck power, smaller engine, better fuel economy, sounds smart. But turbos live under enormous heat and pressure, and when the manufacturer cut corners on the cooling and the oil supply, those turbos started failing. I've pulled turbochargers off these trucks that were cooked, scored, glazed right through, and a turbo replacement done right with all the lines and gaskets, you're staring down $2,000 to $3,500. Now here's where it stops being a mistake and starts being a betrayal. The people who built these trucks tracked every warranty claim. They saw the pattern early. They had the data before you ever walked into that showroom, and they let the marketing department keep talking about efficiency while the repair bills quietly landed on regular working folks like you. That's the part that makes my blood boil after all these years. It's never the machine that lies to you. It's the people counting on you not knowing better. So if you're looking at one of these small turbo full-size trucks, do one thing. Ask for the service records and look for early oil changes done religiously. These engines live and die on clean oil hitting that turbo. A truck that went 10,000 miles between changes is a truck with a turbo already on borrowed time. Change that oil every 5,000 miles, no excuses, and you buy yourself years. That's an engine that fails slow. The next truck fails in a way that leaves you stranded on the side of the road, and it wears a badge people practically worship. Number 9 is a heavy-duty diesel, and I know what you're thinking. Diesels last forever. That's the reputation, and the old ones did. But some of the newer emissions-heavy diesel trucks are a completely different animal. The systems bolted on to clean up the exhaust, the diesel particulate filter, the exhaust fluid system, the regeneration cycle, they fail constantly. I've had these trucks come in throwing codes with under 60,000 miles, going into limp mode on the highway with a family inside, dropping to a crawl in the fast lane. That's not just expensive. That's dangerous. And when that emissions hardware fails, a particulate filter alone can run $3,000. Add in sensors, the fluid injector, and the labor to chase it all down, and I've written estimates north of $5,000 on trucks people bought thinking they'd never have to worry. The cruel joke is these buyers paid a premium for the diesel in the first place, sometimes $8,000 or $9,000 over the gas version, believing they were buying bulletproof reliability. Here's my honest take. If you tow heavy all day, every day, a diesel can still make sense because you'll actually run the emission system hot enough to keep it clean. But if you're buying a diesel to drive to work and haul mulch twice a year, that emission system never gets hot enough to clean itself, and it clogs. You'll spend more than you ever save on fuel. Buy the gas engine and sleep easy. Now we're getting into the trucks that don't just cost money, they cost you your trust, your time, and sometimes the whole vehicle. And the deeper we go, the more you'll realize how many people looked the other way while these rolled off the line. Number 8 is a full-size pickup with a lifter and camshaft problem that I have personally torn into more times than I can count. On certain Vate engines from recent years, the lifters collapse. You'll hear it first as a tick, then a knock, and by the time it's loud, metal has already been grinding through your engine. When a lifter fails on these, it can wipe the camshaft, and now you're not doing a small repair. You're doing a job that runs $4,000 to $7,000, and on some of these engines, the design makes it a labor nightmare that eats days of shop time. I had a fella bring one in, barely 2 years old, and when I told him what it cost, he asked me if I was joking. I wasn't. I've never been more serious in my life than when I'm telling a man his brand new truck needs an engine teardown. The look on his face is exactly why I make these videos. If you own one of these, listen to your engine on a cold start. A light tick that goes away is often fine. A tick that stays, or a knock that gets louder as it warms, get it looked at immediately. Catching a collapsing lifter before it destroys the cam is the difference between a $1,500 repair and a $6,000 one. But even that engine gives you warning. The next few trucks fail in ways that blindside you completely. And I need to stop here for a second because I know some of you watching already bought one of these. This next part is for you. If you're sitting there right now with a knot in your stomach because you already own one of the trucks I've named, don't panic and don't tune out. This is the most important thing I'll tell you today, and it won't cost you a dime. Here's what you do this weekend. In your own driveway, no shop required. First, pull your oil dipstick and really look at it. Not just the level, the color, and the feel. Rub it between your fingers. If it's gritty, if you feel tiny metal particles, that's wear metal from inside your engine, and it means something is coming apart slowly. Catch that now, and you can save the whole engine. Second, get down and look under the truck after it's been parked overnight. Clean pavement, flashlight, look for drips. Red fluid is transmission or power steering. Brown or black is oil. pink or orange, sweet smelling is coolant. A fresh spot the size of a quarter today becomes a failed component next month. You want to catch a leak while it's cheap. Third, and this one's free and takes 10 minutes, buy a cheap code reader, the kind that costs $20 to $30, and plug it into the port under your dash. It'll tell you if your truck is storing trouble codes even before the check engine light comes on. On the emissions and transmission failures I've talked about, those codes show up early, sometimes months before the breakdown. Reading them yourself means you never get blindsided and you never get lied to about what's actually wrong. And fourth, if you've got one of the turbo trucks or the lifter engines, shorten your oil change interval right now. Every 5,000 miles with the correct full synthetic oil the manufacturer specifies. I've watched this one habit push engines that were destined to fail past 200,000 miles. Clean oil is the cheapest insurance you will ever buy. It's not too late for you. Most of these failures give you a window if you're paying attention, and now you know exactly what to watch. Now, everything I've been sharing with you, the warning signs, the inspection steps, the model year traps, the failure patterns, the dealers will never walk you through. I put all of it together in a much deeper format in my book. It's called Don't Buy That, and I also wrote Deeper Liability and Full System as companion guides that take you even further under the hood on this stuff. If you've found this useful and you want the complete picture before you sign anything, the details are in the description. Tens of thousands of people have used these to walk off a lot with confidence instead of regret. I wrote them because one video was never going to be enough to cover everything that can go wrong and everything you can do to stop it. All right, back to the countdown because it's about to get ugly. Number 7 is a truck that got a complete redesign recently, and redesigns are always where the trouble hides. First year and second year versions of a brand new design are guinea pigs, plain and simple. This particular redesign half-ton had problems with its 10-speed automatic transmission, harsh downshifts, clunks, and in some cases full failures that stranded owners. I've seen these come in with the transmission dumping into limp mode, and the repair, if the unit's toast, runs $4,000 to $6,000. Never, and I mean never, buy the first model year of a completely redesigned truck. Let somebody else find the bugs. Wait 2 or 3 years until they've quietly fixed the worst of it in later production. The buyers who rushed to own the newest thing became unpaid test drivers, and they paid for the privilege with repair bills. That's the pattern nobody in the showroom will ever admit to you. But a bad transmission you can replace. The next truck has a problem baked so deep into how it was built that there's no clean fix at all. Number 6 is a full-size pickup with a frame and corrosion issue in certain regions and model years. I'm talking about frames that rust from the inside out, brake and fuel lines that corrode and fail, and undercarriage components that rot faster than they have any right to. If you live anywhere, they salt the roads in winter. This is a nightmare. I've put trucks on my lift barely 6 years old where the frame flaked apart under a screwdriver. When a frame goes structural, that truck is done. There's no affordable fix. You're talking about a repair that costs more than the truck is worth, which means you eat the loss. I watched a hardworking guy lose a truck he'd babied because the frame rotted while the body still looked showroom fresh. He kept it waxed and clean and never knew the cancer was eating it from underneath. If you're buying used in any salt state, get under that truck before you buy. Poke the frame rails. Look at the brake lines. Any heavy flaking, any scaling rust, walk away no matter how pretty the paint is. And if you own one, get the underside pressure washed every spring after the salt season and consider a fluid film rust treatment. It's $40 to $100 a year and it can add years to the frame. That one rots slow. The next 3 are the disasters. These are the trucks where I've seen grown men nearly in tears in my waiting room and where the people who built them have the most to answer for. Number 5 is a truck powered by an engine with a cylinder deactivation system, the kind that shuts off cylinders to save fuel. Great in theory. In practice, on certain versions, that system causes excessive oil consumption and lifter failure, and I've torn into these to find the deactivation hardware itself as the root cause. When it fails, you're back into that $4,000 to $7,000 engine territory, and the burning oil problem means some owners are adding a quart every 1,000 miles just to keep driving. That's not a truck. That's a patient on life support. Here's the gut punch. There are ways to check for this before it destroys the engine, and the dealers rarely mention them. If you own one, watch your oil level religiously between changes. A truck burning oil is a truck heading for lifter failure. Some owners have found that keeping the oil topped and using the exact specified oil weight slows it dramatically. But if it's already eating a quart every 1,000 miles, get it into a real diagnostic before it grenades. And yet, as bad as that is, it's not the worst on my list, because the next truck combines an expensive failure with a repair so labor-intensive that the bill will genuinely take your breath away. Number 4 is a heavy-duty truck with a high-pressure fuel system problem on its diesel engine. When the fuel pump fails on some of these, it doesn't just quit. It sends metal debris throughout the entire fuel system, contaminating everything from the tank to the injectors. And once that happens, you're not replacing a pump, you're replacing the pump, the injectors, the lines, the rails, sometimes the whole fuel system top to bottom. I've written estimates on this failure between $8,000 and $12,000 on a truck. For a fuel pump that failed, let that sink in, $12,000. That's more than some people paid for their last vehicle entirely. And I've watched it happen to trucks with under 100,000 miles, trucks that should have had another decade of life in them. The owner did nothing wrong. The part just wasn't built to last, and the design meant its failure destroyed everything around it. If you own one of these diesels, the single best thing you can do is run quality fuel and change your fuel filters exactly on schedule, sometimes even sooner. A clean fuel filter is your last line of defense, catching debris before it spreads. It won't guarantee anything, but I've seen filter discipline save fuel systems that would have otherwise self-destructed. But even a $12,000 bill isn't the top of my disaster list, because at least with that one, you can fix the truck and move on. The next 2 trucks have problems that follow you no matter what you do, and now we're at the trucks I'd beg my own family not to buy. Number 3 is a modern truck absolutely loaded with driver assist technology and electronic everything. Now here's the trap. All that technology, the sensors, the radar, the cameras, the dozens of computer modules, it all fails eventually, and when it does, it's brutally expensive to fix. A single radar sensor for adaptive cruise can run over $1,000. A failed module can send you chasing electrical faults for days of labor. I've had these trucks in my bay where the diagnosis alone, just finding the problem, cost the owner $500 before we touched a wrench. And the deeper truth is this: the more complex they make these trucks, the more there is to break, and the less you can fix yourself in your own driveway. That's not an accident. Complexity keeps you coming back, keeps you dependent, keeps the money flowing away from your pocket and toward theirs. The old trucks you could fix with a wrench and a Saturday. These new ones, you can't even read the fault without a factory scan tool. Somebody designed it exactly that way. If simplicity and long life matter to you, be careful with the most tech-loaded trim you can buy. Every screen, every sensor, every fancy feature is another thing that will fail out of warranty and land on your bill. Sometimes the stripped-down work truck trim is the smartest, longest-lasting truck on the whole lot, but complexity is at least a known enemy. The number 2 truck on my list fails in a way that surprised even me, a guy who's seen just about everything. Number 2 is a full-size pickup where the engine has a timing chain problem. Now, timing chains are supposed to last the life of the engine. That's the whole point of a chain over a belt. But on certain model years, the chain guides and tensioners wear out early, the chain stretches, and if it jumps or snaps, the engine destroys itself internally in an instant. Valves hit pistons. It's catastrophic and it's sudden. 1 minute you're driving, the next your engine is a paperweight. Timing chain job done before it fails runs around $2,000 to $3,000. But if the chain lets go and takes the engine with it, you're looking at $7,000 to $10,000 for a replacement engine, or you're junking a truck that's only a few years old. I've seen both. The early warning is a rattle on cold start from the front of the engine, a rattle that lasts a few seconds until oil pressure builds. If you hear that, do not ignore it. That rattle is your one and only warning. If you own one, listen every single cold morning. That front of engine rattle at startup is the tensioner losing its grip. Catch it there and you spend $2,000. Ignore it and you spend $10,000 or lose the truck. That's the whole game right there in the first 3 seconds after you turn the key. Which brings me to the truck I've ranked as the single most disastrous new purchase on this entire list. And the secret I promised you at the start. This is the one nobody in the mainstream car media will tell you straight because it involves a badge people trust with their lives. Number one is a truck that sells itself entirely on reputation. Bulletproof, they say. Runs forever, they say. And for decades, that reputation was earned. But here's what I dug up, and here's what the buried data actually shows. In a large-scale dependability study, this specific redesigned truck platform showed a spike in reported problems that shattered its own legendary track record, with owners reporting powertrain and electronic issues at rates that would have been unthinkable for this badge 10 years ago. The reputation is coasting on trucks built 2 decades ago. The new ones are not the same animal. The failure I've personally seen is a combination of transmission calibration problems and, on some versions, early powertrain component wear that the badge's own loyal buyers refuse to believe until it happens to them, and that loyalty is exactly the trap. People trust the name so completely that they skip the inspection, skip the test drive, skip the service records, and pay top dollar for a truck that is no longer built to the standard that made the name famous. The premium you pay for that badge, you're paying it for history, not for the truck in front of you. Here's the journey of this truth. The reputation was real, earned honestly over decades of genuinely great trucks. Then the marketing machine realized the reputation itself had become the product worth more than the engineering. So they coasted, cut costs, chased profit, and let the badge do the selling while quality slipped. The mainstream car media wouldn't touch it because that badge buys a lot of advertising, but the dependability surveys, the ones that just count problems reported by real owners, they preserve the honest truth in cold hard numbers, and now you have it. So here's exactly what to do with it. Never ever buy a truck on reputation alone, no matter what badge is on the tailgate. The name on the grill tells you what the trucks were like 20 years ago. It tells you nothing about the specific truck you're standing in front of today. Judge every single truck on its actual service records, its actual test drive, its actual condition under the hood and under the frame. Pull the model year reliability data on the exact year you're considering, because within the same badge, one model year can be a gem and the next a disaster. The badge is not your friend. The evidence is. And if you want the trucks that actually still cross 200,000 miles without drama, look for the boring ones. The proven engines that have been in production for years without a redesign, the simpler transmissions, the trims without the fragile tech. A 3 or 4-year-old truck with a naturally aspirated engine that's been in service long enough to prove itself, with clean records and no rattles, will outlast the flashiest brand new truck on the lot 9 times out of 10. That's not the exciting answer, but it's the true one, and it's the one that keeps your money in your pocket. Let me leave you with this. You came here today one signature away from maybe making a mistake that would have followed you for years, and now you know what to look for, what to listen for, and what to walk away from. That knot in your stomach on the lot, that's your instinct trying to protect you. Now you've got the knowledge to back it up. You're the kind of driver who refuses to get sold a lemon. You want the honest truth, not the showroom pitch. And the fact that you watched this whole thing to the end tells me you're already smarter than the buyer they were counting on you being. You already know what to do next. Slow down, inspect everything, and never let a badge or a smile rush you into signing. Now I want to hear from you. Which one of these trucks were you about to buy? Was it the small turbo full size, the diesel with the fuel pump nightmare, or the legendary badge that isn't what it used to be? Drop it in the comments right now and tell me what you're driving today and where in the country you're watching from, because I read these and I answer them. If you've got a truck with over 200,000 miles that never let you down, I especially want to hear about that one. And if you refuse to be the person who gets burned at the dealership, stick with me, because that's the whole reason this channel exists. A community of drivers who look out for each other instead of trusting the marketing take a minute to look through the other truths I've put together to protect your vehicle and your wallet. Next time, I'm pulling back the curtain on the used trucks I'd actually spend my own money on, the quiet, unglamorous workhorses that outlast everything else on the road, including one engine that mechanics like me secretly hoard because it simply refuses to die. You won't want to miss which one tops that list. Until then, keep your eyes open, trust the evidence, and don't let anybody rush you into the biggest mistake in your driveway. If you found this useful, here's what's next. This was the overview inside my membership. I walk through the full pre-purchase inspection checklist for every one of these trucks, picking up right where I stopped. Ask me your own question, and a real person, me, answers you myself. You're not alone. Car buyers like you are already in the Garage Bench Club. Just point your phone's camera at the code on screen. Cancel anytime with one click. If this helped you steer clear of a costly mistake, go ahead and subscribe. I've got plenty more truck breakdowns right here to help you shop smart and buy with confidence.